last week I was listening to the Paint and Pipette podcast. This is a podcast that's put on by my buddy Jeremy Utley, and he was interviewing another friend of mine, a guy named Marcus Whitney, who actually lives here in Nashville. I love it when you have these like small world moments where two friends from opposite ends of the country get to know each other and really hit it off. It was great. It was a really wonderful episode. But what I really noticed that Marcus said that has really struck me, and I've been thinking about it all week long, was this idea of embodying a really particular mindset. So the example is that Marcus trains and competes in jiu-jitsu. And a big part of that work for him is a pretty gnarly like strength and conditioning program that he adheres to. And at some point in his journey of learning jiu-jitsu and working out like a monster, he started to see himself not just as like another 40-year-old jiu-jitsu player, but as an athlete. And he said that when he started to see himself as an athlete, when his mindset shifted, it really changed his whole life. And at that point, he started training instead of working out, which is a totally different thing. He started paying attention to things like diet and stretching and endurance, and these things have made Marcus a world-class jiu-jitsu champion, not to mention benefiting him just as a man in his 40s. I had a similar experience about a year ago after I wrote the first draft of the novel that I'm working on. I was with a couple of friends, and one of them asked me, they said, "Hey, what have you been up to?" And I said, "Well, I'm trying to be a writer, and I'm working on a book." And the other friend that was there stopped me and said, "You wrote a complete book, start to finish." And he said, "You may not be a published author yet, but you are 100% a writer." And I heard that, and it did something for me. It allowed me to think about myself as a writer, which allowed me to change some of my behaviors. It allowed me to adopt some behaviors that I felt a little uncomfortable adopting before. So I started booking time on my calendar to write. I started reading books with intention. I started treating writing kind of like it was my job. It was just as important as my job. And so, as a result of that, I just started seeing myself differently. I started observing the world in a really different way. That mindset shift really changed things for me. And the same can be true for anyone who wants to see some changes in their lives. It can be daunting to consider yourself a writer if you haven't published anything. And it can be daunting to call yourself an athlete when you don't earn your living from participating in sport. But if you can summon the courage to embody that mindset of whatever it is you want to be, then you'll find that your actions start to reflect back to you the person that you are. If you want to be an entrepreneur, then embody that mindset and start doing entrepreneurial things. If you want good self-esteem, start doing esteemable acts. If you want to be a good husband, embody that mindset and then start acting like a good husband. What would a good husband do? How do I behave like that? And then you will find that as you consider yourself a good husband, you will start to do these things, and you will then, in fact, be a good husband.